Let's talk about, well, a headline for an awful lot of people, especially those who drive either for a living or have to drive a long way for work or take the kids to school and can't rely on these newfangled things like tubes and trains and buses, which everyone who makes policy in London seems to think everyone lives on. They don't. Most people drive to work. Will be the cost of fuel when you go to the supermarket. Loads of supermarkets over the years have used the price at the pumps as a way of drawing in customers. Well, it turns out, actually, they've been fleecing customers. The Competition and Market Authority, the CMA, says there is pretty much evidence for a full probe into why prices at the pumps at supermarket forecourts are still too high, sometimes up to 5p a litre too high. Let's talk to Howard Cox. He's not only founder of Fair Fuel UK, he's now a new, as you would have heard on Mike's show last week, Reform UK's London mayoral candidate fighting against the ULEZ zone as well. Good morning to you, Howard.
Hello, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed. I'm very well because I don't have to drive very far. I live in fairly central London, barely use the car, so I don't really notice what the price at pumps is. But most people in this country do because they use their cars every single day, don't they?
Well, there's 37 million of them. That's about 80% of the voting population. So they're pretty important in next year's general election. If they're ignored and as fleeced as they continue to be treated as cash cows, I think all parties should recognise that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that, but certainly drivers have felt like that all the time. And now also everyone's just being castigated. Oh, you awful, evil person for driving a car that's run on diesel or petrol, i.e. most people in this country. But this investigation by the Competition and Market Authority, it's been going on for a long time. You've been calling for this investigation for even longer. That actually, with Pump Watch and that, the prices of the pumps goes up massively the moment there's a hike in the wholesale price of oil and gas, but it doesn't go down again when it goes down.
Well, this is the third CMA in my time of actually running Fair Fuel UK since 2010. This is the third inquiry by the CMA, and the first two were complete whitewashes. But nothing's changed. The drivers have been fleeced for years, and every single driver would tell you that. And when you see wholesale price of diesel currently 5 pence lower than petrol, yet at the pumps we pay for diesel something like 10 to 15p more than petrol. How can that be right? Because 60% of everything on the forecourts is delivered out of the pumps is diesel. Yeah. And it's the commercial heartbeat of our economy. And this is the stupid thing. The government have allowed this to happen. So I'm delighted at last the CMA are showing some teeth.
Although it's a bit slow, and again, these things, we've done an investigation. I mean, sorry, you can do this in a weekend if you have enough people to get you. I mean, again, this is just sort of slow churning, meanwhile, while people are being fleeced. But the RAC, the motoring body, they said that forecourts are overcharging diesel drivers, as you mentioned, more than 20p a litre. They said it's a rip-off that's costing motorists. I mean, this is a huge sum, £10 every time they fill up. That is a huge sum of money. Many people are having to fill up every single week or even more often than that if they drive for a living. Those are huge sums of money that are being taken out of people's pockets and just put into the coffers of the supermarkets and indeed, of course, the oil and gas companies.
Or don't forget, that's a family car the RAC are talking about. When you talk about truckers, when you're talking about 400 litres going into a truck, which impacts on the delivery, the price of goods, etc. And the big thing about this is the government are wallowing in an extra load of VAT because of it. We've worked out something like, in the last year, an extra 2 billion because of these dishonest pump pricing. 2 billion of extra VAT.
That's the key thing. You sort of wonder whether there's an incentive for the government. And lots of people saying, they shouldn't perhaps have been benefiting from it to the same tune when they were saying, well, isn't it terrible that these fuel prices are going up? Yeah, and you're benefiting from it. And again, with our domestic fuel prices. And this is the thing, even people who don't have a car or people like me who don't drive very far, we are still, as you say, being hit by this because every time something you buy, anything, you get it delivered, you go to the shops, anything you buy, whether it's, an apple or a new pair of shoes, it's been delivered by truck. And that truck has had to pay these extra costs. And that is being passed on to us.
Absolutely right. And this is the point. Every time inflation goes up or down, I bet you most of the time the biggest influence of that inflation is the cost of fuel. And you'll see this at times. The government, it's in their power why don't they, for a year, cut fuel duty for 20 pence, introduce Pump Watch, you know, a price regulatory body that actually can make sure pump pricing is honest, fair and transparent. If they did that sort of thing, that government or that party suggesting those things will be elected for about another decade.
But why doesn't the market work? I mean, there are so many choices for a lot of people, not everywhere. If you live in the middle of nowhere, you probably only got one garage. But I mean, I've got a number of garages within, you know, reasonable driving distance of my home. Although, to be fair, a couple of the nearest ones had actually closed down in recent years. You know, turned into those ubiquitous flats, you know, above a railway line sort of thing. But if where there's competition, why is that competition not forcing prices down?
Well, there isn't competition. It's a cartel. This is what's happening right across in the fuel supply chain. I mean, you mentioned right at the beginning there about supermarkets, where they always used to attract people, you know, have 5p off a litre if you spend 50 quid in the shop. That sort of thing. Great. Well, very nice indeed. But ever since most of the supermarkets are under actually private equity purchase, I mean, for example, Asda have been bought out by Euro garages. And now, Asda were always the ones that led the way in bringing down the price of fuel. Unfortunately, now they're owned by Euro garages. Now they are one of the highest, and they are profiting more than most these days. And it's a shock to me because I know a lot of the people at Asda, and I think they're not happy about it internally.
No, indeed. Well, look, I know we're going to talk to you again another day about your role as a Reform UK London Mayoral candidate tackling ULEZ. Sadly, not enough time this morning. It's too big a topic. And again, people who say, "Oh, media's too London-centric." No. This stuff goes crosses the whole country eventually. Howard Cox, founder of Fair for UK. Thank you very much indeed.